Algernon's October with the check-in on Hip Hop United. We got another MC in the house that hit the world like a sonic boom with his new singles Unbreakable and Be Mine on the charts. He's Wendy Day approved, so that can only mean one thing. He's official. Stingray's in the building. What's up, family?
What's going on, man? Everything's good, man. Good to be here.
Good to have you here, my brother. Good to have you here. Well, I mentioned Wendy a little bit earlier, so let's jump into that. How did you meet Wendy Day, and what are some of the things she's been helping you out with?
Well, Wendy was one of the first people that I got connected with when I was in New York. You know, I left Chicago for New York because of the music, and actually was able to make it down there. I had family in Yonkers, but I stayed with Wood Harris and Steve Harris, the actors. You know what I mean? We all, you know, came up together, so I was able to stay with them. And while I was on the move, making moves, trying to, make connections with people, I ended up getting connected with Wendy through a girl named Mecca. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and she was like she was in the industry as well, and she connected me to Wendy. And that's how I got connected to her. And then she introduced me to Rap Coalition and everything that they were doing for, artists and, and everything. And it kind of just went from there,
Yeah, that's what's up. You got two singles, my brother. You got Be Mine, produced by Mr. Hanky, and Unbreakable that are charting right now. Talk about both of those songs and the challenges of promoting those songs as an independent artist.
Well, yeah, definitely. Unbreakable was like and Be Mine are the latest tracks that had just got released. You know what I mean? And Unbreakable was before, Be Mine.
Okay.
And Unbreakable went number 2 on Digital Radio Tracker, the charts for Digital Radio Tracker. It went number 1 on Urban Influences chart.
That's what's up.
And then Be Mine actually went number 7 on Digital Radio Tracker, and I think it's like 133 on like Media Base. So it actually made, Be Mine actually made the charts with the majors. You know what I'm saying? So 133 out of the top 200 on Media Base. So that was a good look too. You know what I mean? And that one was produced by Mr. Hanky as well.
Yeah, big things, man.
Yeah.
So you're charting, you're definitely moving some things out there, and you've had a couple of opportunities to get signed to a major. Did you, why did that, or did that materialize, or did you just kind of decide to be independent? What happened with that?
Yeah, I had, I was almost signed to Atlantic, Def Jam, and Columbia. You know what I mean? And I just feel that in the journey, it was just something that fell through because it just wasn't my path, you might say. I mean, fast forward to where I am now or what I'm doing now and the independent movement, with First Kings Entertainment, which is my company. And, if I had actually signed that deal when it came to those majors, I would have been, probably still connected or still like owing money or owing things. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times with those major deals, because when I started back then, I didn't know as much as I know now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I would have signed and then, say for instance, you get a couple of projects or albums you got to finish, then you're going to be behind. You know what I mean? Like a lot of those deals. And you're going to be owing money. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you never stop owing that money in the industry. Yeah. So if you don't pay it back, if you don't recoup it, you can be in that forever.
Yeah.
Because they're going to want their money. Well, you ain't going to lead them and leave money on the table. So, to fast forward to where I am now, as far as the independent movement, it's the potential is unlimited to where it can go or what it can produce.
Okay. Okay. All right. Now, when new listeners click on your music links, what can they expect to hear and what kind of separates you from the crowd?
I think it's just you should expect to hear creativity. You should expect to hear something that's not sounding just like everything else. You know what I mean? I feel like music is art, and I don't feel like it. Music is art, and it's good to have different variations and different styles and different things. You know what I'm saying? Because that I think that makes you appreciate the art form even more. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I feel like the things that I'm touching on is kind of different and in my own space, so, and I think that, people obviously it's been good feedback because it wouldn't be charting if it wasn't. You know what I mean?
I agree, and you definitely take more of an old school approach to hip hop. Of course, I'm from the '90s and such of that, so I'm a big fan of wordplay and lyrics, and it seems like that you dive very deeply into that. Like for instance, in the Unbreakable video, you had a Prodigy T-shirt on. So tell me how he influenced you.
Yeah, well, always respected. Definitely one of the artists and MCs that I respected. You know what I'm saying? So and somebody that I would have loved to be able to work with, you know what I mean, to, get on a track with, and just, it was sad when he passed away, you know what I mean, and, so I kind of just wanted to create something to just show the respect, you know what I mean, because I feel that he was one of the, to me, he was one of the greatest, you know what I'm saying, but, he isn't really talked about like that, and I kind of wanted to do something to show that, you know what I mean, that I felt that. For him, you know what I mean? So, and I'm very much cut from the same cloth, I feel, with how, in my own, style as well. So, but that's it really.
All right. Since you are an independent artist, I've got to ask you a little bit more about that because there's going to be people following in your footsteps.
Yeah.
So as an independent artist, what are the things that you should invest most of your money into in order to advance yourself?
I think at the end of the day, one thing about the music business, you got to look at it, if you're an artist, you got to look at it like being okay and acceptable to the long run. The music business is like a marathon, and a lot of young artists don't realize that. You know what I mean? Like, this is going to be a marathon that you're going to have to run until you finish, or you're not going to make it. You know what I'm saying? So if you think you're just going to get in and you're going to be a superstar overnight, it just don't work like that. You know what I mean? So you got to be committed to the long run, committed to the journey, and you got to stick until you get something done. You know what I mean? The relationships you build over time. I mean, even like meeting, Brianna, that's me hustling. That was me over time because I didn't give up. I was still involved in connecting and networking. You know what I mean? So that's what produced this opportunity today, so.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Summertime's coming up. It's getting hot, as you know. You've been outside, so you feel the heat. You bringing any new heat for the summer or what?
I definitely got some stuff, in the pipeline coming, and there's going to be real, good stuff and competitive with what's going on in the market. You know what I mean? So I really feel like, because I wouldn't call myself, I wouldn't say old school for anything like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I call it the true school, when it comes to that. You know what I'm saying? So that's the way I present that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm from the true school, not old school. But at the same time, again, it's all about being able to create music. You're never too old for something if you're able to create a viable product in today's market. When you cannot create a viable product in today's market, 2025, then you're beginning to get too old with whatever that you're doing. If you can create, something that is acceptable and marketable, to in the current time, then you good. You good. That's all you need.
So you've met a lot of different legends within the game. Dr. Dre, I think
Wendy,
Rosenberg,
Paul
of course,
Rosenberg.
Wendy, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that, bro.
I met Dr. Dre at the Bowery Club. I was with Wood Harris, and we went to the Bowery Club when the Yankees won the championship in '96. So, I got in because of Wood, but Wood's first movie was Above the Rim. That was the only movie that he had at that time. And so we got into the club, and Russell Simmons and everybody was in there, whatever. But to make a long story short, I'm getting ready to go to the bathroom, and there was a big dude standing in front of the bathroom. You know what I mean? So I'm like, look, big man, you got to get out the way. I don't know what you're doing, but you got to move. You know what I'm saying? So he like, he's like, hold on for a minute. You know what I mean? And then, I'm waiting, like, you know what I'm saying? And then Dr. Dre comes out of the bathroom. So I'm like, yo, Dre, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, yo. And I probably told my life story in like 8 minutes, you know what I'm saying? Flat.
Right.
Like, man, he was like, you got a tape? You know what I mean? Because at that time we were still giving out tapes, and I was like, damn, I was like, man, I'm in between music right now, man. I'm like, oh. But I was like, that's all right, I'm gonna see you again. You know what I mean? And so anyway, he went back to the VIP, but and I went to the bathroom, and then there was somebody in outside like, hey, yo, Stingray out here, and ended up being when I came out the bathroom, it ended up being the director of A&R, Michael Lynn, for Aftermath Records, and I was like, I'm Stingray, and he was like, yo, Dre told me to give you this, and so they gave me a business card, you know what I mean, to Aftermath, you know what I mean, and so I had that before I created my new music, because I had passed it all out while I was in New York. So I created my new music, and then I got chosen by Wendy, had a demo listen that I got chosen for. She chose me as one of the artists to be featured on it. So she had a lot of industry people on the panel, EMI Records and some magazines and different types of people on the panel. So it was 3 of us, you know what I mean, and I ended up winning the event. You know what I'm saying? I won the event, and there was a lot of people in the audience of people that came to support the event, and Paul Rosenberg was one of them. So Paul Rosenberg was one of the attorneys that gave me his business card, but everybody was giving me cards, and different lawyers and different people that was in the crowd that came to support Wendy's event. You know what I'm saying? So I got the card, and I met with Paul Rosenberg. I went in New York, because I decided to check him out, you know what I mean, and he gave me Eminem's demo tape at that time at the office. And that was before Dr. Dre, of course, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, I wrote down, when I got my music done, I wrote down like all the contacts that I had made over time, you know what I mean? Because I wanted to, Paul to shop them, for me as an attorney. And so I gave him a stack of music, you know what I'm saying? And then stack of bios and everything. And Dr. Dre was one of those contacts that I gave Paul. So, and I don't know. At that time, you know what I'm saying, Eminem, they weren't signed to Dr. Dre.
Wow.
So,
it's a beautiful story, though, man. Yeah, you got an opportunity to kind of get linked up with everybody based upon everything that you brought to the table, and of course, Wendy and everything else. So just kind of let you know, man, when you're working and when you're doing the right things and when you're networking with the right people, big things can happen.
Yeah, well, maybe, you know what I'm saying, maybe the Dr. Dre contact came from me, or it came from the mailroom, or one of those other things that happened. I don't know. But it certainly was after that, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. But it's all good, It is what it is. I mean, everything happens in God's timing, and I looked at it, something on the inside of me, just always said, your time gonna come, Ray, your time gonna come, Sting, just keep moving, and so I just let it go, you know what I mean?
That's dope.
Yep.
That's dope.
So yeah.
All right, that makes sense, my brother. Well, we appreciate you kind of hanging out, doing what you do. Yeah. Please let everybody know where they can find you, and of course, what you got coming up next.
Anybody that's looking to connect with me, you can just go to the website at firstkingsent.com. That's FIRSTKINGSENT.com. If you click on the music, you can get the latest music. If you click on the store, you can go to FKE merchandise, and you can get Stingray gear. You can get tees and hoodies, for all different types of flavors. You know what I'm saying? So definitely go and check that out, and definitely check out Be Mine and Unbreakable, and check me out. Y'all get with me.
That's what I'm talking about, man. Big merch. Heavy on the merch over there. Well, we appreciate all your contributions, my brother. Wishing you nothing but continued success. Make sure you definitely subscribe to Hip Hop United on the iHeart Radio app. Select Hip Hop United. Put us in the presets. We appreciate all the support. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Stingray's in the building. Let's go.
All right. Appreciate y'all. You know what I mean? No doubt. Yep. So there it is.